The Michigan Wolverines survive a game closer than I certainly expected, and I want to know from you guys your one-word reaction to the 34-27 victory over Maryland that just ended at the Big House. Maryland throws a touchdown late in the game, gets a two-point conversion to cut it to one score. So Michigan wins by 7. Go down in the comments here on the Michigan Football Report YouTube channel. Give me one word what your reaction is to this victory. Mine is concerning. There's quite a few things I think Michigan really needs to tighten up as you get into the meat of that October Big Ten schedule, which gets started really, Saturday at Iowa. So we will go over all those things, 5 or 6 big takeaways from this game. It is the Michigan Football Report from Chat Sports coming up right now. I'm your host, James Yoder. Instant reactions. I've got 5 or 6 things that I noticed jotted down on my glorious notepad throughout the game that we are going to talk about here on today's show as Michigan beats Maryland 34-27. It looked like it could be an offensive shootout early on, but things kind of started to quiet down. Maryland didn't score in the third quarter. Gets a couple touchdowns late, including that two-point conversion to cut it within 7. Talia Tagovailoa, 20 of 30, 207 yards. J.J. McCarthy, 18 of 26 for 220 and those 2 touchdowns. The story of the game, though, folks, Blake Corum, 30 carries for 243 yards. First time Michigan has had a 200-yard back since Karan Higgins did it in 2017. So huge day for Blake Corum. Back-to-back huge days for Blake Corum. No Diamond Edwards today. He has 30 carries today, 243 and 2 touchdowns. Last week, remember, 5 rushing touchdowns for this Michigan football team who gets the victory 34-27. All right, folks, we are going to dive into my instant reactions on this one. And look, when the games are close like this, they don't go the way you think they are. You got to kind of be shooting from the hip here. Before we do, though, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't, we're in here on a Saturday. I got my guy, producer Sam, back for another season. Haven't had your 4th week, Sam. You are finally here in the studio for a Michigan football post-game show. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. The link is below, youtube.com/MichiganTV. If you've subscribed, send the link to a friend, all right? If you said, hey, learn more about the game today, go over and follow this guy, Yoder, Michigan Football Report by Chat Sports. Subscribe today on YouTube. Folks, today was the Blake Corum show. Had it not been for Blake Corum, multiple plays that he made, Michigan would have lost this football game. They were down 13-10 with under a minute left in the first half, 4th and 1 from the 33-yard line. They hand the ball off to Blake Corum. He runs it 33 yards, breaks through the line, scores a touchdown. Later on in the game, he scored a touchdown towards the end, which at the time put Michigan up 2 scores, but ended up being the difference in the game because Maryland marched back down and scored a touchdown 2-point conversion themselves. So Blake Corum, 243 yards on the day, was pretty much all of Michigan's offense in a lot of ways, right? Michigan got 200-plus yards in the passing game, but they didn't feel like impactful yards in a lot of ways. We're going to look at Michigan, 463 total yards in the day, 243 of them from Blake Corum. So clearly more than half the offense for the Wolverines. The go-ahead touchdown in the end of the first half, and then maybe the game-sealing touchdown in a lot of ways. The touchdown he scored towards the end of the fourth quarter turned out to be the difference, 34-27 for Jim Harbaugh's squad. All right, let's get into my 5 instant reactions outside of Blake Corum. And the first one is survive and advance. This game in some ways reminded me of the Nebraska game last year. Michigan didn't have to come back down late like they did against Nebraska last year. I think Michigan was down with under 3 minutes left in the game. They were up in this one. We're even up 2 scores with just a couple minutes left in the game. But survive and advance. A couple things that I'll tell you about in the first half. You can go to that one, Sam. A couple things that I want to talk about that happened in the first half coming up in a second. That was my second one. But I did want to ask you guys, if you like the fact that Michigan survived a close one, didn't lose this one, go out and give me a go blue in the comments. Light it up. This is one of those games that you kind of want to be bummed out. You kind of want to just talk negatively, but you're 4-0, number 4 in the country, headed for 2 straight road games after 4 straight wins at home. Let's keep the positivity rolling out of the month of September. Number 4 in the country. Give me a go blue down in the comments. I apologize to any of you who bet with BetUS on this game at least. But you've got time to make it up. NFL Sunday tomorrow, games tonight here. Ohio State's playing Wisconsin tonight. All kinds of college football games going on around the country. Bet Games is our sportsbook partner. If you took my advice, my lock of the century, of the year, of the week, of the day failed. So I'm now 1-1 in those locks of the century. I said Michigan -17 was a sure thing. We lost. I apologize for you. But if you bet that, win it back tonight or tomorrow morning, NFL. If you haven't yet, go ahead and get started with BetUS. Chatsports.com/GoBlue. Promo code GoBlue. 125% deposit bonus. So if you bet a bunch of money on today's Michigan game, you lost it, you wouldn't lose all your money because you got the 125% deposit bonus with BetUS. Chatsports.com/GoBlue. Promo code is GoBlue. This Michigan team, folks, they got lucky in the first half. Lucky in a lot of ways. Lucky to have the lead 17-13 with a touchdown on 4th and 1 from the 33. But let's talk about some other things. J.J. McCarthy was running around like a madman in the first half in a lot of ways, right? He was a couple of times he made plays, but one time he fumbled the ball, lost 15, 16 some odd yards like that. Michigan intercepted to his brother in the first half. Look at the stats here. First half stats, Michigan, Maryland. Wolverines up 17-13. But the real key interesting part of this one was the turnovers here. And I think I got that wrong. 2 for 1. Maryland had 2 turnovers. Michigan just the 1. J.J. McCarthy struggled in some regards, right? 11 of 16 for 100 yards in the first half for J.J. McCarthy. So had any of these plays gone the wrong way for Michigan, and I want to kind of recite them. McCarthy fumbled twice. Michigan got them back. Michigan intercepted Taulia Tagovailoa. DJ Turner did. And the ball probably hit the ground. Okay. Maryland fumbled their opening kick. Michigan recovered and scored a touchdown on the next play. C.J. Stokes lost that fumble. So that one, Maryland got. But had Corum not scored that touchdown, had the review people kind of not, had their heads up their butts, McCarthy lost those 2 fumbles to Maryland. This could have been like a 24-10 Maryland halftime lead. So I think Michigan got super lucky going to halftime with a 17-13 lead. Blake Corum, superstar in the first half, superstar all game, 13 carries, 132, and 1 touchdown in that first half, averaging over 10 yards per carry in the first half, and that included and continued on throughout the game. Blake Corum, huge day, and he was really the difference. First half and the second half, put a touchdown in before the end of the half, and then, of course, before the end of the game. One of the big struggles today was J.J. McCarthy downfield. Missed Roman Wilson in the first half once or twice. Missed Angelo Anthony downfield in the second half a couple times. And at one point they said on the broadcast he was over 5 with passes past 15 or 20 yards. All in, had an okay game. But the downfield passing, which seemed to be the difference between him and Cade McNamara in a lot of ways in the first 2 or 3 games, where McCarthy was hitting all those passes against Hawaii, against UConn. He didn't really hit any of them today, right? Where he started to feel his mojo, get his moxie, was crossing routes. Cornelius Johnson, Luke Schoonmaker, who we'll talk about here in a second, and others. But anything downfield, anything over the top of the secondary, he really struggled today. And that makes us wonder, was this he did that well against underrated 2-star players at UConn and Hawaii? Or, is he going to struggle with that against Big Ten competition going forward? I think remains to be seen. We'll find out more next Saturday at Iowa. Go ahead and give me a grade for J.J. McCarthy's performance today, A, B, C, D, or F. If you want to be a pro like me, you can toss in a plus or a minus. I'm going to give him a C+. Got the win, no interceptions. Did have that one pass towards the end of the game, too, where Michigan got the field goal late. We threw the ball into the end zone from the 21-yard line. It could have been picked off, right? The guy was just an inch away from getting his foot in for Maryland. So I'm going to give him a C+. But J.J. McCarthy, I think his worst game as a starting quarterback, clearly in the 3 starts that he's had as Michigan's quarterback. Eric All out for the season. Hello, Luke Schoonmaker. What a game for him. He got the ball rolling early on. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's like the first time in 15 years, something crazy like that. I don't know what the exact stat was. I apologize. But it's been a long time since a team has kicked the ball off and scored a touchdown in under 10 seconds in the Big Ten. It hasn't happened very often. Luke Schoonmaker was the recipient of that first score. Michigan kicked the ball off to Maryland. Maryland fumbled. Michigan recovers. First play, J.J. McCarthy to Luke Schoonmaker. He is your starting tight end now. Eric All won't play again this season unless something dramatically different than what we know changed from a couple days ago. 7 catches, 72 yards for Schoonmaker today, 10.3 yards per catch, and that first touchdown for him. What a day. Certainly don't feel like Michigan lost anything in the tight end game. We wish Eric all the best, wish he was playing, but Luke Schoonmaker is a guy who stepped up when an injured player was down and had himself a career day for Michigan in today's win. Make sure you don't miss me on Twitter. I wasn't as active today because I was busy with my son early on in the morning, but typically I'm pretty active. I was still tweeting out probably a dozen or so times during the game, but make sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm awesome on game day. Outside of today, maybe it was my best, and I am tweeting about Michigan football all throughout the week. It's at James Yoder. I'm going to link it down in the comments and description of today's video. And lastly, despite a close game, despite what seemed like a Maryland offense that would had their groove going early on, I thought Michigan's secondary had a pretty great day. Big-time interceptions. R.J. Moten, late on in the day, intercepted Talia. DJ Turner, first half interception. That may have hit the ground just a little bit. I thought Mike Sainristil was everywhere. Between him and Junior Colson, I think those are the two MVPs of my defense, Colson and Mike Sainristil, starting level receiver for Michigan the last couple of seasons, which is crazy to say. To his brother, Talia Tagovailoa, I do think his parents should kind of have a little diversity in how they name their kids. It's almost the same exact name, but whatever. 20 of 30, 207, only one touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And I don't know if he was injured. We'll probably find out here at the post-game press conference whether he was injured and they took him out at the end of the game when Maryland scored that last touchdown, or if they just pulled him because he wasn't getting it done after the touchdown to R.J. Moten there in the fourth quarter. That seemed at the time was one of the differences in the game. But the secondary, pretty good day. Gemon Green, right? One of my notes early in the game was Gemon Green was really defending the pass downfield throughout this game. They went deep on him a couple times early on. He was all over it, and he was very good at looking back. Sometimes if a guy looks back too late or doesn't look back at all, they throw the flag instantly. Look back at just the right time, threw his hands up to make sure he didn't get any sort of penalty. Very good defense in him. Saw Will Johnson in there a number of times. Makari Page, R.J. Moten, Rod Moore. Great games by those guys. And when Maryland seemed like they had everything going on, you're not getting a ton of pass rush throughout this game from your defensive line. Very good to see that the secondary didn't falter, didn't give up any big-time touchdowns that could have broke this game open in a negative direction for Michigan and maybe gave Maryland an upset win of what is a top-5 Wolverines team. The Wolverines, though, did do it. I've been calling for this since August. 200-point month on the nose. A 200-point month. Second time in school history. 2016, that team scored 208 points. Michigan scores 200 points on the nose. 51, 56, 59, 34. You add them up, 200 points for Michigan's offense. So congrats to them. Big-time month for them. Let's see it continue with Iowa, with Indiana, Penn State at home, which could be a top 6, 7, 8 team by the time they play. And then you got Michigan State at the end of the month at the Big House, October 29th, which, as far as we're hearing, potentially could be a night game at Michigan Stadium. Next week, the Wolverines will travel to Iowa, an Iowa team that can't seem to do anything on offense. So give me a prediction down in the comments. Predict the score next week. Michigan, Iowa in Kinnick Stadium next week at 12 o'clock. I think it's also on Big Noon, so on Fox there for us. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, folks. We will have our Overreaction Sunday tomorrow, and then Monday morning we will put out Michigan football winners, losers, and grades for you guys. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, comment your score prediction below, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Michigan gets the win 34-27.